At the beginning of the film, we see a statement stating that this movie is based on true events. 30,000 people go missing every year in Australia, 90% which are traced within a month, while remaining people are unknown to everyone. In 1999, we see a place in Australia where a girl named Liz was going to a tour with two friends. Low-cost tour means the least expensive tour, to take lift for reaching at some place, etc. Her friend brings a cheap car for the tour. They move to their journey and night prevails while going. That's why they stay there to spend the night. In morning they start their journey again. After driving a lot they reach a place where a store was present. Her friend captures everything from camera. While Liz enters the store with her friend, the local people were staring at them. Meanwhile, her male friend also comes inside. The local people call her friend and talk dirty about those girls. Her friend never wanted to create any drama, that's why they leave that place. After driving so much they reach to their destination, Wolf Creek. Wolf Creek was a big park located in the desert. They all stay there for a while and enjoy a lot. As the evening prevails they start to move from there. They observe that their watches were stuck at 6:30 p.m. They ignore it and come back in the car again. But they notice that their car was also not starting as their watches. That also went off. After trying a lot, the car never starts. They notice that they were in a big desert, so they can't reach at any place on foot. Therefore they sit in the car to spend the night. Night prevails after a while and a light was approaching to them. They get scared by that. Upon getting closer they find it to be truck's light. A local person was present in the truck whose name was Mick. Mick was there to help them. He checks the car and say that he can fix the car. But the instruments are present at my home, so you people should come to my home. They think that they don't have any other option left. This is better for them. They all sit in the car and Mick ties their car along with his car. Several hours were passed since they left Wolf Creek, but they didn't reach at Mick home. They were also unsure about their location, because there was darkness outside. That's why they started feeling scared. After so much time they reached to his home. They find that it was a mining area. Mick offers them drink and starts telling them the stories of his life. He tells that I'm a hunter and I kill many animals. He was telling all this in funny way, but some of his talks were never funny. Then one friend of Liz also starts talking funny, but Mick never likes his tone and stares at him. He hints at so many things during his conversation which were very important. No one was able to understand him. He says that I hunt those animals who come in Wolf Creek. The animals he was talking about were no others but travelers. They even don't take it seriously and think of it as fun. He tries to fix their car, but that was just drama. He had put something under their drink. They all get fade. Next day, when Liz wakes, she finds herself tied in a shed. Things were unorganized there. She was unable to see anyone else there. Liz cries there and shouts for help. The whole day gets past and night prevails again. She tries to free herself and prepares to find something. She finds a piece of glass there. She frees herself and finds that Mick has taken out the engine and all parts of their car. Blood was present on their belongings. She tries to escape to save her life. Then she hears her female friend who was shouting. She sees that Mick was punishing her friend in another cell. There were other dead bodies too who were all travelers. He used to punish them and would kill them afterwards. In order to save her friend, she gets an idea. She fires up the car. She throws a gas cylinder there. A blast happens and Mick comes there to check. Mick tries to extinguish the fire. Mick reaches to her friend, but before she frees her, Mick reaches there again. Liz hides somewhere and Mick tries to punish her friend again. Seeing an opportunity, Liz straightens up his weapon on him. Mick tries to proceed to her, but she shoots him. The bullet strikes near his neck, though he doesn't die but become unconscious. She frees her friend and both try to escape after sitting in the truck. But there was no key in the truck. Liz comes alone inside to take the key. She checks his body and finds the key. She comes back, starts the truck, and tries to escape. But Mick comes in front of them with a gun and tries to shoot them. Liz starts the truck and moves it upon him, but he survives. She tries to move the truck, though she gets out of there, but she never knew the way. There was too much darkness and she was unable to see anything. The problem here was that Mick follows them on another truck. She drives the truck real fast and she comes near the dig. She applies the brake at the right time and the truck stops at the corner. To save her life, she gets an idea. They put the keys out and drag the truck towards the dig. The hide near that. Mick reaches there and finds the truck in a dig. But Mick never gets satisfied. That's why he goes down by himself. Liz plans to take the other truck, but the keys were not present. Now they were in a condition and had no other option. She plans to go back to his location because there were many other cars which may have the keys, using which she can run. She comes to the mining area again. She asks her friend to wait outside and says, "If I won't come back in 10 minutes, you should run." Saying this, she goes inside and finds many cars there. Belongings of the travelers were also there whom Mick had killed. Many other things were present there. Mick checks the camera of a traveler. She understands about Mick, who tries to help first and then kill the travelers. The camera of his male friend was also present. Mick checks that camera. Then she finds that Mick was following them since they went in the store. Because Mick's truck was also captured in his camera. She sits in the car and checks the keys one by one. One of the key gets fit in the car and the car starts. But Mick was also sitting in that car and he stabs the knife in her body. She somehow manages to get out of the car, but he attacks her again. Liz tries to stop him with her hand, but her fingers get divided. Mick catches her and stabs the knife inside her spine. She gets disabled. She was unable to move. 10 minutes were passed and Liz doesn't come out, so her friend runs away. She keeps on running and finds the main road in the morning. She was continuously running on the road and no one was there to help her. She gets tired and stops there. She finds a car approaching to her. She stops the car of an old man who helps her. He tries to fetch water for her from the trunk, but Mick shoots him. She comes out to check him. Finding him dead, she tries to start the car, but the key was lying in the trunk. She takes the keys from the trunk, starts the car and moves from there. But danger was never gone as Mick was following her in his car. He takes his car near her car and she hits his car. Mick's car gets out of the road and she thinks as if she was safe. But she wasn't, as Mick bursts the tire of her car. The car gets off balance and becomes off-road. Mick goes near her car. As he approaches to her, he shoots her. He puts her body in the car and fires up the car. Liz's male friend was still alive, we discovered. He frees himself and attempts to escape. After running so much, night prevails and he gets tired. Next day, we see two travelers who were passing by and they see her male friend. They put him in their car. He was rescued later and was brought to the hospital. Then we were told that after so much searches, police was unable to find the two girls. Because the investigation was not done properly, as there was only one witness. He never knew the location. Neither he had any proof. After 4 months, Liz's friend was freed. Then we see the Mick again, who was moving freely after committing so many crimes. And the part 1 ends up here. Now, I will describe part 2, which begins with the same statement as in part 1. That this film is based on real incidents. We see two policemen who were performing duty on the main road. A truck moves from there and they check its speed. A truck was passing with speed lower than 100, but they follow him to catch over speeding. They make the truck to stop and there was none inside except Mick. They both insult him and say that your truck looks as if it was thrown from a dig. This was true because Liz had thrown that truck in the dig. They say that you were crossing the speed limit, but Mick knew that he wasn't. But policemen were not ready to listen to him and they give him challenge for overspeeding. They ask him to move the truck. Both the policemen were happy after this. They were going from there. They had given challenge to someone who was not overspeeding. They were making fun of Mick and a bullet strikes in the head of a policeman and it shatters away. The car gets out of control and becomes crashed. Mick finds that the other policeman had escaped from the car. He makes him sit again. Then he puts petrol on the car, gives back the speeding challenge and fires up the car. He was moving in a relaxed mode after killing two policemen. Then we see a couple in which girl's name was Katrina. They were also doing low-caste tour and were advancing to the Wolf Creek, but they find no car whom they could borrow the lift. That's why they were walking there. Then we see a truck nearby, which gets stopped after watching them, and this truck belonged to Mick. They both try to go closer to that. Another truck also passes by. That's why Mick doesn't pick them and moves away. They both sit in the other truck. Mick moved away as he could be caught because of other truck. The other truck was a danger for him. They both reached to their destination, Wolf Creek. We were shown that this desert was grasping everything. After enjoying there a lot, they planned to move back. They both were wailing on feet as nobody was giving them lift. After walking a lot, night prevails and they spend night in a tent. Mick passes nearby and he finds the light in their tent. Mick goes near them and says that tents are not permitted over this place. You may have to pay fine for that. I will help you out. He says that I'm going to the city and I will drop you there. But Katrina's husband rejects his deal and says that we will stay here. And we will go in the morning as we are not doing any bad thing here. Mick doesn't like his logic and he stabs him with a knife. Katrina runs over to her husband and Mick grabs her also. He ties her hands and punishes her also. Her husband attacks him, but his condition was very much bad. Mick beats him a lot and then tries to divide his throat. Katrina gets panic over this. After dividing her husband's neck, he holds her and makes her unconscious. When she wakes up, she finds that Mick was dividing the body of her husband. That's why she runs from there silently, but Mick finds about her. That's why he follows her on truck. Katrina keeps running from there, and she moves after making him confuse. Then we see an American traveler. His name was Paul and he was also going to that road. Katrina comes in front of him and asks for help. He stops the car and puts Katrina in his car. But without wasting any time, Mick approaches there on his truck. Katrina asks him to move quickly. Paul tries to speed up his car. Mick tries to hit their car. He puts his truck near their car. He threatens them with his knife, but they somehow manage to pass him. But they see that road was blocked, so they had to stop the car there. Mick pulls out his gun and tries to shoot them. Paul gets downward so as to get saved from bullet. Paul gets saved, but the bullet passes into Katrina's face. Seeing her dead, he tries to reverse his car and moves. Mick fires him again, but Paul survives again. After covering some distance, he stops the car and puts Katrina's dead body outwards. He gets sad that he couldn't save her life. He tries to find out the road. After traveling a lot, he finds the road. He comes on the main road, but he never knew the path. He stops the car and looks into the map. Then he sees the car approaching to him. He tries to stop the car for help, but it doesn't stop and moves forward. He sees the truck coming towards him, but the truck stops a bit far from him. He sees that Mick was driving the truck. That's why he tries to come back in the car and intends to move. But Mick was approaching him. Mick hits his car, but Paul gets control on his car. Then he drives his car in zigzag way. Many kangaroos come in front of them. Paul saves them and heads forward. But Mick swats them all. But the problem here was that petrol was about to end. Paul comes very far from him and thinks as if he was safe. But the luck was not favoring him and his tire gets burst. His car stops nearby. Mick hits his car with the truck and smashes it to the deep ditch. The car falls down, but Paul survives. Paul shouts at him and then he sees that Mick was throwing his truck downwards. The truck strikes his car and the blast happens. But Paul was saved in all this. But Mick was looking to him. Paul keeps running in the desert. He falls down as he was tired. When he looks upward he sees a house nearby. He reaches near the house and gets fade outside. When he wakes up he sees himself on the bed. He notices an old couple in the house. They were taking meal that Mick arrives there. Paul gets scared upon listening to his voice. The old man takes out his gun and asks Mick to move from there. He does the same and moves from there. The old man comes inside and says, "We should move." Mick comes inside and shoot him. The old lady tries to escape after seeing her husband dead. But Mick kills her also. Paul runs away from there, but Mick sees him. A horse was also present there and Mick follows him after riding the horse. Paul hides himself in the bushes but Mick listens to his voice. He stabs him and he becomes unconscious. Upon waking up he finds himself tied to a chair. There were many weapons near him and he gets scared by that. Mick tells him the rule that one should never stop his car for anybody. But Paul never did so. He stopped the car for Katrina. Mick was punishing him for this. He tries to look funny here. Mick starts joking. He says that I will ask 10 questions about the history of Australia. And if you will answer 5 of them I will leave you. Now as Paul was history student he gets happy after listening to him. Mick brings the grinder there and he asks that why you brought it here. Mick says that if you will answer wrong I will divide your finger. Then Mick starts questioning him. Paul answers all the questions correctly, but still Mick divide one of his finger. Because he never liked his intelligence. Then he asks about the best cricketer of Australia. And Paul gets failed this time and says that I don't know about cricket. He gives him the hint and says that it starts with this alphabet. Paul was unable to answer him. Then he tries to divide his other finger. Paul says that you can divide the other finger of my hand. Mick does the same and divides the finger of his other hand. But Paul had answered wrong intentionally, because he was free after his both hand fingers were divided. Mick goes out to take drink and Paul keeps a hammer nearby him. When Mick comes back Paul attacks him. Then he tells the name of that cricketer. Paul moves from there because that was a difficult place. He finds dead bodies of many travelers there. A girl there was still alive. He grabs his hand and asks for help. And somehow Paul reaches to the exit. Mick orders his dogs to attack him and they were approaching him. The dog falls in trap and dies there. And when someone approaches him, he pushes him on those traps. That was actually the girl who was asking for help. Mick grabs him from backside and fades him again. This time when he wakes up he finds himself in the middle of town, but he was naked. He had a note in hand on which loser was written. Mick was trying to convey that people outside the Australia are all looser. Then we see a statement that Paul had told everything about Mick to the police. But police held Paul responsible for all the murders that happened in the Wolf Creek. But this was not the reality. He was victim himself and was innocent. Even after the investigations, Paul became mentally disabled. He is now in a mental institution. Mick was shown again, who was moving freely after so much murders and crimes. The second part also ends up here.